Merry Christmas from Catholic Bible Channel. By coincidence, today we're covering chapter 2 of the Gospel of Matthew, the birth of our Lord. In verse 1, Jesus is born in Bethlehem. In verse 3, Herod is troubled at the birth of a new leader. And in verse 7, King Herod lies, saying that he wants to worship Jesus. In verse 11, the wise men encounter Jesus and fall down to worship him. In verse 12, the wise men, are warned in a dream not to return to Herod for fear that their lives are under duress. In verse 13 and 14, the angel of the Lord tells Joseph to go to Egypt. In verse 16, Herod kills all the innocent children, all boys under the age of 2, in the city of Bethlehem, in his attempt to kill the Messiah. In verse 18, we have a quote from the prophet Jeremiah. Chapter 2 starts with the birth of our Lord. And why does this matter to a person named King Herod? Well, King Herod is a non-Jewish leader in an area predominantly Jewish. He's appointed by Rome. He himself, as a person, he's very paranoid. He fears that people are after his throne. So when he hears of a new leader being born, he sees it as a political threat. In fact, he's so extreme, he's even known to have killed one of his sons and wife, who were, in his mind, after his throne. By chance, today, Saturday, December 28th, is a feast day in the Catholic Church, the feast day of the Holy Innocents. The Holy Innocent represents the young boys under the age of 2 who were killed by King Herod in Bethlehem. So today, the Mass readings and the Liturgy of the Hours are centered around the martyrs of the Holy Innocents. My second point I'd like to focus on is the city of Bethlehem itself. If that name sounds familiar to you, it's because you probably heard it in the Old Testament. King David himself was born in the city of Bethlehem. And remember that Jesus is in the lineage, or from the lineage, of King David. Secondly, the name of the city of Bethlehem has another significant layer. Translated to English, it literally translates to house of bread. So Jesus, the bread of life, is born in Bethlehem, the house of bread. And that's not on accident. Jesus was born in the house of bread, and Jesus is the bread of life. Finally, the third point that I'd like to talk about comes from gold, frankincense, and myrrh, the gifts of the wise men. Gold is not a far stretch. We know that many kings are adorned with gold, and it represents royalty. So it's an appropriate gift for a king, Jesus. Frankincense and myrrh needs a little bit more explanation. Specifically, frankincense was used in many rituals in the Old Testament to worship God. So it is used during ceremonies of worshiping God. And myrrh was used as a burial ointment. So let's think about this for a second. We have the king, the human aspect of Jesus. He's a king. We have the godly aspect with frankincense. And with the myrrh, we can sort of look at that as a foreshadowing of his death and burial, and ultimately his resurrection. So gold, frankincense, and myrrh is an appropriate gift for Jesus. We'll leave it at that for today. Please come back later next week for chapter 3. Rejoice that he's been born, and rejoice that Christ is Lord. Goodbye.